All right, we're here with Jeff Sandquist. I'm sure you remember him, the Webby Compiler Lab. What are we doing in here, Jeff?
Hey, so it's been a while since I was on Channel 9. A lot of people wondered where I went to after I left Channel 9, and one of the things is I'm running an evangelism team now. And my team right now is hosting a compiler lab for Whidbey. And that means that folks that actually write .NET CLR compilers. And what's really cool is we have two people here, Tomas and Ladislav, who are from the Czech Republic. And
Hello.
say hello. And they go to the they're at from the Charles University in the Czech Republic, and they have a really interesting project that they started down about 2 years ago. And why don't you guys just talk about the project that you have? It's called Phalanger. And why don't you talk a little bit about why you went down creating Phalanger and what it actually is?
Well, it started as a student project on our university, and it is a PHP compiler for .NET.
So PHP compiler for .NET.
Yeah. And it consists of the compiler itself and runtime libraries and all the extensions that PHP has can be used in the compiled code. So everything you can write in PHP is also runnable under our compiler.
So
Yeah, there are many people writing programs in PHP, at least in Europe, and but it's kind of this technology is kind of very old, and we thought it would be a great idea to bring them to .NET, and so they do not have to learn a new language. They do not have to use ASP.NET, but they still can take advantage of .NET.
okay. Can you explain exactly what are some of the advantages over traditional PHP?
Well, you went down an interesting path. When you went to do this project, .NET was pretty new, and maybe you were a little bit skeptical, or you didn't. I mean, talk about what happened why you went down. We were talking about before, and you said .NET was new, you didn't know much about it, and you wanted to understand a few things and you wanted to improve. We talked a little bit about that.
Yes, definitely. Definitely we want to explore what the .NET is and find out whether it is possible to implement dynamic language such as PHP is to .NET, which is statically typed. And we hope that all the problems which comes with PHP can be overcome, and
So what are some of these problems? What are some of these problems?
Well, it is the nature of the PHP language. You can call functions by name, access variables by name, all generate dynamic code and so on. So it requires some very cool thoughts which have to be found how to implement this. Of course, it can be done via reflection or something like that, but that is very slow. But we would like to improve the performance via compilation, which we have done. Actually, our compiled code is quite faster than the original one.
Fantastic. Because the original one is an interpreted.
Yeah, the original one is partially interpreted, and there are also some encoders which improves the performance. But as you can see from our benchmarks we made and we presented on our website, either if you use something like Zen Performance Suite or something other improvement, you get half of the performance you can get with our compiler.
Fantastic. So what were some of the challenges you guys faced in designing, implementing a compiler?
Yeah, we wanted to bring as many functions that are available in PHP. We wanted to bring them to .NET. And one way to do it is to re-implement these functions in managed, so for example in C#. But there are so many of these functions that it is not always possible, or we are not capable of implementing all of them. So we also have a way of using native functions that ship with the original PHP in so-called extensions. And so it was quite a big challenge to use these native extensions to host them in our managed environment and to use the functions that are implemented inside of them.
Interesting.
How long have you been working on the project?
How long?
Yeah, how long? When did you start doing the project?
We started it in December 2002. That was the first meeting where
That was the first ideologic meeting where we decided to implement PHP and find out which means we should use for this.
Fantastic.
Where did you, it's called Phalanger.
Well,
What does
yeah.
that mean?
That is abbreviation of PHP language compiler. PH, the first word, lang is the second word, and R is a compiler. So that is, and it is actually an animal living, I think, in Australia, and it is with long tail.
Fantastic.
So that was quite funny to find that some such animal can have a name which fits our purposes.
Sure.
It was very funny when we discovered this.
So where can people find out more about what, you know, if somebody wants to play with this, what do they do? Where should they do?
They can download it from our website, phpcompiler.net, and download it, try it, read documentation, papers, whatever. It's free for non-commercial purposes now. It will be probably free for either for commercial ones, and it's not free source code. We kept our source code.
Understood.
So you can try it, and
Fantastic.
we will be glad if you send us feedback,
Absolutely.
because we want to improve this.
And links to on the website where to get feedback and download the code.
Yeah, we have and some examples there. Everything can be found there. You can email us when you have some problem with installation or anything like that.
And people can also ask questions about
Yeah,
their
about
experience running
implementation,
their own compiler.
Yeah.
whatever.
Very cool.
So what made you interested in writing compilers? Have you always been interested in that? Or?
now this is our first compiler.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was also a pretty big challenge because we never wrote a compiler, and at the time we started this project, we didn't even have the courses of compiler writing, so we had to discover the things like ourselves.
Well, the first half of the year we studied a lot, write no code at all, but studied compilers, .NET and PHP. We studied PHP every day, so we find every features that even those that are not documented, because as you know, PHP has no standard, and that was also the main challenge to find out the principles which were hidden in the PHP.
Sure. And learn about how to write and design a language, even though it wasn't really your own language, you had to take it. That's pretty amazing. Very amazing. So people can play around with this. So if I know PHP, then I'm going to be able to write. So give me an example of some of the subtle and not so subtle language differences. So it's because you're now on managed, you have to be verifiable, you have to be type safe. So what kind of enhancements did you make to the PHP language in order, so when I'm writing it as a developer?
So we had made no enhancements to the language. Our goal is that you take the code that you wrote for the original PHP and you compile it, and you don't have to edit a single line. It just works.
Just configuration which is stored in separate file, and it works like ASP.NET configuration, that is paired directory configuration which can be changed at runtime without restarting server. All of that stuff which comes with ASP.NET is available for PHP also.
So I've got a question for you. Popular PHP application is PHP BB, or
Yeah.
PHP Bulletin Board. Have you tried taking some of these other projects and compiling them?
Not the PHP BB, but PHP Nuke.
There
We
you go.
have already compiled. We may show it.
I can show it. I'm
Really?
not
Oh,
sure.
absolutely. Let's see this.
We will try to compile as many such projects as possible, but we have limited resources, so we would like you to compile those things.
Yeah, so this is PHP Nuke running on top of Phalanger.
It will be available in 14 days on our website. We will have an opportunity to test it and view the source code.
So when you took PHP Nuke to compile it, how much work was it to take PHP Nuke and recompile it? How much code tweaking did you have to do in order to get it to work with your?
Yeah,
Wow.
there was a problem in the PHP Nuke in the code because we want to compare it with our managed extensions, which we would like to prove that managed extensions are more powerful than those which are wrapped and which comes from PHP to our compiler. So we have written an extension for Microsoft SQL Server, and we want to compare PHP running on Apache server accessing Microsoft SQL, and that was the problem because all the authors of PHP Nuke claim that it is no problem to do so. There are some problems in SQL, so we have to correct some SQL queries, but that was all. It was some lines have to be changed. Then it goes.
What do you use for a development environment? Notepad?
No.
No, you don't use Notepad? What do you
No.
use?
Visual Studio.
All right.
Why do you use Visual Studio?
Because I personally like that. We have Visual Studio on our college under academic license, so it was available and nice. So we have used it.
You've played with Whidbey a little bit, right?
Yeah.
What do you love? What do you like? What do you love about Whidbey?
Particularly in our project, we will try to port it to .NET Framework 2 because we really like generics.
So now, what would generics look like in PHP if I were to start writing code in PHP.NET? I'm not calling it that, but what would it look like in Phalanger? Forgive me. So when I create a new project, a Visual Studio, one of your project types, and I want to do a new Phalanger project, and I want to writing a class, and I want to implement generics, I want to write some generic code. What does it look like?
Well, we are not.
Because it doesn't exist in PHP.
Yeah, we currently we are not planning on bringing generics to PHP. Well, maybe in the future, but the generics will help us in the runtime, in the language runtime. There is a lot of collections that should be
So you
made.
PHP array is main data structure in PHP is PHP array or object, and there are some hash tables inside it, inside our implementation, which now using boxing because there is no specialization derived by the type, and it will be faster to implement those structures which are used by PHP. It will be better to do with generics, but the PHP language will not be able to access it for now.
Okay.
It will require a lot of modification in grammar, and we don't like to do so because we would like to have the exactly same grammar as Zend has written it. Zend has written his language definition, and we would like to keep it as it is.
So
without-
the core benefit is that you're running in a managed environment, so
Yeah.
you're running on a managed heap, and you have a more secure environment, got type safety, verifiability, etc.
All
And
the
it runs
code,
faster because it's
Yeah.
compiled.
yeah, all the code which we produce, which runs on the web server, is verifiable. So administrators can trust such code, and there is some feature that we, even if you want to use native extensions, and if you don't trust authors of those native extensions, you can isolate these extensions to separate process. So if those extensions crash, the main web server process remains running, so it will be more secure. And the speed up is significant because we are building on a very good JIT compilation, so which is in .NET. So
Fantastic.
it'll
And
speed
another
up.
another advantage over the original PHP is that it is really easy to make it interoperable, or interoperability is easier with other languages. So now you can write your web application partly in PHP, and some classes can be in C#, for example. In PHP, when you want to extend the functionality, so you have to write it in C, and it's really ugly. It's really not. It's really hardcore, I would say.
So that's a huge win. Fantastic.
Yeah, the extensibility is quite simple to achieve because you can create your own assembly written in C# with standard typed functions or methods, and some metadata, additional metadata. You can put a single line into configuration, and the compiler will load it, reflect it, and you can use it in PHP code. So the addition of some of your function, if you want to access whatever is available on .NET framework, is about 5 minutes. You have all the functionality
It's
you want
amazing.
to.
So if I wrote a PHP application, and at least this is what I think is pretty cool, as you were alluding to, was I had a nice big application, and I wanted to have some new features. I simply create a new C# project, for example, write my code, and then I just import my PHP, my Phalanger libraries, forgive me, and bingo.
Yeah,
That's beautiful stuff.
it can be done from C# to PHP. There are some limitations, of course, because PHP doesn't support all the types that are available on C#. So your code have to comply some simpler rules. We are working to improve conversions, and we are working on importing an arbitrary type of .NET to PHP, but it is not working yet. Maybe in future, but you can conversely use PHP code from C#, and also you can use native extensions from C#. So if you want to use, for example, PDF generator, which is written in PHP extension, you may call it from C#. So you may generate PDF from C#.
Now, if I call it from C#, it's going to be running, do I call it an unsafe code block? So is it going to be running
No,
in the
no.
managed process?
Yeah, it's,
Maybe
An unmanaged extension will be running in the managed process.
yeah. You have two possibilities with the unmanaged extensions. They can either run in the same app domain, which is unsafe, but you don't have to write unsafe because you are interacting with the extension through a managed wrapper. So you're not calling like the invokers, nothing like that. You're invoking managed functions that are generated, and this native code can be loaded to the same process as your application is running, which is faster, but it's less safe. because that misbehaving extension can bring down the whole process. And you can run it in an isolated process, and then the communication is done via remoting. It's slower, but it's safe. It's better for web servers. So that the web server must be running. And
Yeah.
So, we start every word here with "so" when we talk. It's kind of a thing that we've got here. Anything that you'd like to share with the world out there? We're going to put this out on the web and stuff.
So you can help us by testing the Phalanger. We will be very, very glad if we can receive your feedback, because we would like to. We would like users to use it. It will be super when we saw some icons powered by Phalanger on